Welcome to the Stack of Stats podcast. Pam Maldonado here, joined by Kelly in Vegas, and we're here to bring you our 5 against the spread contest picks for week 13 of the NFL. And Kelly, we sucked last week, 1-4. And what were you saying?
Pam,
let's not do that again.
It's hard. When you usually have this like extra time to prep, right? We usually do the show on either Thursday night or Friday morning. And there we are scrambling. It's Thanksgiving. It's my birthday. I was coming to Austin. I realized that in my own plays as well. I'm so used to having those extra prep days, and it really helps me hone in on things more. My personal parlay went 0-3. The other 3 dogs I gave all went outright. Of course they did. And that's kind of how I felt about this NFL slate. It was, did we rush it? Did we try to hurry up and do it too fast? The crazy thing was we agreed on a lot last week, and maybe it's better when we partially disagree.
Maybe it is, but also I fully agree with what you were saying that, last week it was rushed, and I will gladly take a 1-4 week. Sorry to everybody who tailed, but I personally happy to take a 1-4 week because Saturday when you came to Austin, I had so much fun. I had, some Prosecco. I let my hair down. I was a little chill. I was sick, but I still had some fun, and I haven't had like an outing in like a long time. So I'm appreciative of that. I didn't think about our lines. I didn't think about the games. It was just, enjoy the holiday season, which is what you're supposed to do with friends and family, and sip some time over cocktails and enjoy some good food. And that's exactly what we did. The Texas game, it was hella fun. I'm really excited that we beat your K-State team, Wildcats. Perfect way to end out the season for my Longhorns. Hook 'em horns. Sorry about you, but you know what? It is what it is.
You also left up the other L that I took that day. I had Nebraska up 21-6. We go to this bar after the game. I'm licking my K-State wounds. I got it all out of my system. I'm no longer angry. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go 1-1 today. And you're like, oh, I have Iowa. And then Iowa comes rushing back. And I'm like, you know what, Scott Frost? We're fighting now. And it was one of those days. Austin, great city. I hadn't been in forever. So if you haven't been, highly recommend. Pam will be your tour guide once a year. She'll go out, let her hair down, and party with everybody.
So last week, 1-4, crap. Let's not do that again. But we are still doing pretty good overall on the season. We're 34-26, even despite our 1-4. And that was actually our second 1-4 on the season. So what happened the week after? We went 4-1. Let's try to do that again. Just a reminder of what it is that we're doing. We're putting together our 5 against the spread contest picks for the NFL. Automatically in is Kelly's best bet, which I don't think I got a text message this week of what that is. So we'll figure it out together. You are now 9-3 on the season. We switched things up last week. Instead of me giving her a single best bet, instead I'm giving her my top picks overall. And then we'll see which one of those makes the card to make up with our 5. So then what is your best bet? Because I sent you like what I liked this week, and you're like full agreement. And we were just talking about how last week we agreed, and then we went 1-4. So I don't know if that's a good thing this week.
Well, maybe it is. I hate this week's card. Full disclosure, this is one of those weeks where I'm like, God. But one of the things that I do love, and we've spoken about this before, are those divisional home underdogs. This week we have a plethora of them. So I looked really hard, and I wanted to figure out kind of what you and I have spoken about several times on the show, which one is going to win outright, right? I didn't think the Lions were going to be the team to win outright.
I already know where this is going.
Do you? Okay, I want to hear who my best bet is.
Steelers.
Yeah.
Because they like completely just like, we had them on our card last week. It was atrocious. Watching Big Ben trying to do, I don't know what he was.
Any worse at the Bengals. They could have not looked any worse. And then Sunday night, I had the Browns plus 3.5. Sitting back, no problem. Run this clock out. Holding penalty, Justin Tucker field goal, and that was all she wrote for my mental well-being the rest of the weekend. My heart couldn't take any more. But the truth of the reality is here, Pam, you've got a Ravens team who has usually been noted for their great defense, right? They had 3 interceptions they could have capitalized on at any point in time in that first half. They did not. Look, they barely got a touchdown, a 16-10 winner that was rather fraudulent. You got Lamar Jackson, who's on my fantasy team, also just atrocious. This guy has got a lot of issues they need to work out offensively. So I'm looking at a team who kind of got a fraudulent W versus a team who could not have looked any worse. Yes, Big Ben is just absolutely infuriating, but he has been a great home underdog. Him and Mike Tomlin as head coach. Yes, it doesn't matter if it was Duck Hodges, if it was Mason Rudolph, or if it was Big Ben, has been even better at home. It's going to be cold. It's going to be ugly. And I think that we're going to see this Steelers team get the actual W over this Ravens team that really, I think, is pretty fraudulent, if you will. I think they have a lot of issues. Najee Harris is going to have to run the ball, though. And that is something that we've seen me kind of get frustrated over the last few weeks, if you will. They didn't run the ball against the Lions. They didn't run the ball against the Bengals. He is your key to taking that pressure off Big Ben. And that's what the Steelers are going to need if they want to win this game. It is ugly. I hate it. And it's my best bet. Steelers plus 4.5.
We're getting 4.5 for the contest, and I am in full agreement on this one. I was already prepared with all the stuff that I wanted to say, and it is looking at you should not be a 4.5 point favorite. At worst, I think this should be like a 3, because the Baltimore offense, they have scored a touchdown on just 3 of 35 drives over the past 3 weeks. That is last in the league. The Baltimore Ravens are 30th in points per play over the past 3 weeks after ranking 12th in the weeks prior. And the Baltimore defense, I don't know what happened to it. It ain't here, but they are 31st in the league in sacks plus turnovers allowed per game. Why did Big Ben have such an atrocious game last week? And it was because of that Cincinnati Bengals pass rush. Well, now you're going up against a non-existent pass rush. Big Ben, if you still stink with no pressure under your belt, then I'm done with you. But I'm willing to give you one last chance. My concern here, TJ Watt, he's not playing in this game. He shouldn't even have been in the game last week. So he's not going to be applying pressure to Lamar Jackson either. So that's going to kind of be like a bit of a wash. But other than that, I agree with you. Jackson, I think we're going to see him back to the running game. They struggle, Pittsburgh defense, they do struggle with mobile quarterbacks. They allowed Josh Allen 44 yards, Justin Fields 45 yards, and Justin Herbert 90 yards. So Jackson, look for his rushing prop. For those who do player props, hit his rushing yards. I am definitely hitting that one myself. He has rushed for 50 plus yards in 8 of his 10 games. So that's what I like for that matchup. Okay, in. All right, that's easy. All right, so then mine, because I don't have a single best bet, I'm going to give you a few of them that I love. I'll say equally. Washington football team plus 2.5. That's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Broncos plus 9.5 at Chiefs. I don't love it as much because I personally have a 10.5 ticket. And for the contest, it is 9.5. I also love the Patriots plus 2.5. I may be concerned because the original line that I studied was 3. So I don't know if that extra little non-hook doesn't will affect things. And then my favorite one also that I also like is 49ers minus 3.5 at the Seahawks. Do any of those tickle your fancy?
All of them. Look, this is something we can go through. I'm going to go with the Broncos first because that is my 1B bet, if you will. Last week I was on the Broncos. We got that rocking chair winner, and it makes me really, I don't know if apprehensive is the right word, uneasy, because I grew up a Broncos fan. I'm very critical of this team. Same thing with K-State. I'm not going to play them in a situation that it's not right. And last week, Broncos just absolutely no sweat winner, home divisional underdog. Now they're going to Kansas City. The thing is here where Kansas City has started to finally get their gears going, right? So now everybody's ready to back Kansas City again. Arrowhead so loud, XYZ, right? I understand.
Andy Reid off a bye.
Exactly. And then that's the last one is off a bye. Let me figure that out because my good friend Ralph sent me the one off a bye.
I will tell you that in 2021, we're in 2021, last season, the Chiefs went 0-2 after a bye against the spread. Yeah. So he's not bulletproof.
Yeah, I thought I had the data written down, and that was because the under is going to be in play here. That is actually his stat was home favorites of 8 or more, divisional game. They're trending towards the under 31-10. So that means points are at a premium here. Again, this is a Denver Broncos team that since Patrick Mahomes has basically been their starting quarterback, the Broncos have sucked against the Chiefs. I understand a lot of people are going to want to bet the Chiefs. I also have a 10.5 in my pocket. I bet it on Monday. 9.5 is kind of one of those things where it's like, dang, I wish we were at least getting a 10. I think this looks like a very close down to the wire type game. It could be 24-21, 24-17. Either way, those final scores are going to get us that cover. I think we see this Broncos team really start to kick it in high gear here this last few weeks. They have a shot to make the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to, but this is a game that I think they think is winnable, especially with Chiefs having a down year, if you will.
I actually have for my Yahoo bet, best bet of the week. I told you my best bets do really well when they're totals. They're kind of along the same mark of you. You're 9-3. Well, mine are 2 when it comes to totals. I'm really good at NFL totals for whatever reason. I've never have been, but for this year, they're working out. My best bet was the under on this game, and for a few reasons. And it's because the Denver defense, it is a legitimate defense. It's time to stop shitting all over them. Oh, because look who have they faced. They have what they have, and they have done really well against some of the better teams, but they are allowing only 6.5 red zone plays per game. That is the fewest in the league. They're allowing 2.2 red zone trips per game, and that is also fewest in the league. That's the defense. And if you're looking at scoring opportunities, why I loved this under was because the Chiefs, they have scored 20 points or less, and the Denver Broncos have scored 17 points or less in both of those in 3 of the last 4 games. So you're telling me 2 teams who are having trouble putting up points with really great defenses cannot keep this within 10 points. I absolutely love Teddy Two Gloves here. Yes, the Chiefs have improved on defense, so that's going to be like my one concern. I don't see the Chiefs offense popping off, which makes me love the dog. My only concern was the 9.5 and not the 10.
Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I think this looks like a touchdown game. And I honestly only think that it opened up as high because the bookmakers want to protect themselves from Chiefs teasers, because we know that the Chiefs are able to squeak out these wins. And we see that a lot more often than people realize, so this is just a scenario where I think the Broncos are that 1B bet for me, right? Like every week now we've been saying, okay, like I love this game, but I also really, really like this game. These are my 1 and 2 personally. So totally on board with the Broncos. Want to talk Washington football team?
Let's do Washington. I love Washington football team. When the world is saying, nah, frauds, overrated, what have you done for me lately? You know what? Washington, give them the credit where the credit is deserved. No one wants to believe that the Washington football team is actually maybe a good team. I'm not going to say a great team, but a good team, and definitely improved since the bye week. 3 straight wins. And yes, it was against the Bucs, the Panthers, and the Seahawks. Brady on the road. We've talked about that before. The Raiders, they are going to be a more challenging offense, but Washington without Chase Young, I want to say, has been a more focused defense. Now they're having to gel together instead of relying on one guy. But they've allowed 31 points per game in weeks 1 through 6. And now they've allowed 19 points per game since. And I've never been a believer the Washington football team was ever a bad team. But if you look at their schedule early, who did they play? A tough ass fucking shit of a schedule. The Chargers, the Bills, at the Saints, the Chiefs, the Packers, and at Denver. That is a really tough slate of games. So, hey, they lost. They're supposed to. Now you're getting a Raiders defense that is allowing 126 yards per game on the ground. That is 25th in the NFL. And who does Washington have? Running back Antonio Gibson. He is a stellar player. He's coming off his first 100-yard outing of the season. He should have success on the ground this week. And Heineke since the bye. I love the heart that he has. You know that with him, he's never going to want to give it up. And we saw it against the Packers. And I'm always going to go back to that Packers game because we had it. We had Washington. I know that they could have come out with the win, but Heineke, he was trying to do too much. And in times it became a problem, obviously. But you know from him that he's going to like literally give his blood, sweat, and tears for that. But since the bye, 77% completion, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, improved defense, plus an improved offense. Live dog against the Raiders. I know. At Raiders in Vegas. I love Washington.
So I haven't played Washington yet. I was waiting to see. I put them in my teaser early on in the week with New England, which we'll get to next. And I was just going to wait. I just kind of wanted to see because I was like, you know what? Washington is that team that keeps it respectable, right? Now, that Packers game was rather frustrating because there were so many red zone attempts, but those are things that point teams in the right direction, right? I had this team to win the NFC East. I had this team over 8.5 wins. Granted, that was with Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's a journeyman, who I thought was going to be able to get this team into the playoffs. Unfortunately, he gets hurt, but you nailed it. Taylor has a ton of heart. They play really tough. And this defense was actually the real reason why I was wanting to back this team. On the flip side, you've got this Raiders team that all of a sudden can get a win over the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. You nailed it. I didn't have the guts to hurry up and put it into our plays. I thought, you know what? this is just one of those years where something has to give in Dallas. Luckily enough for Dallas, they got it done last night against a really banged up Saints team. That being said, I think that Raiders win was just kind of rather fraudulent. They had a tough stretch there since Gruden getting fired and all of the other off the field issues that team is dealing with. Now, all of a sudden, they're going back home. They've got a long week. Everybody wants to back the Raiders, right? Just underneath that field goal. I feel like the bookmakers are just hook, line, and sinkering it. They're just throwing it out there. Come on, guys. Come get this home team under a field goal. I think the Raiders lose this game. I will be on the Washington football team plus the points. I will be on them in that teaser as well.
I love the teaser option because I think the total right now is 49.5, but I do think this is going to stay within a touchdown because both of these defenses, they're both pretty bad. They're both 28th in touchdowns allowed and 31st and 25th in points per play. So points are going to be scored. I also liked the over in this game, but definitely I like them on a teaser. Do you want to put this in or do you want to continue talking about other things?
No, I think we've got 3, Pam.
This is rolling. Look at we're moving. We're grooving. We got this. All right. So then you want to talk about the Patriots. I liked 3. 2.5 scares me, but I love the Patriots. What do you think about them?
Yeah, of course, 3 would be better, but this is kind of that same elusive 2.5, right? I did put the Patriots in a teaser. I'm going to be honest with you, Pam. I have the Patriots season win total under. I don't want them to win this game. It doesn't matter though, because they're going to win this game. I'm going to have to pay my buddy Chris 2 dimes because that 2-4 start, I'm sitting there like, oh, you can pay me early. I'll let you buy out early. He's a Patriots homer. And I was just rousing him. Since that moment, this Patriots team has been on absolute fire, right? We've got Mac Jones, rookie quarterback. Bill Belichick keeps him in his perspective box, right? He limits his mistakes. But the real deal here is this Patriots defense. This defense came out of nowhere. I didn't think that they were going to be some powerhouse defense this year. And I think that that's what we're going to see. You mentioned what Josh Allen's able to do against crappy defenses. What's he going to do against a good defense? I think they're going to get in his face. And I think that they're going to put a ton of pressure on him. This is going to be one of those awesome AFC East Monday night football games. Hopefully it's snowing. I'm so excited to watch this game. I think it's going to be great. I think New England keeps it within the 2.5. I think this game could be like a 31-30, some kind of crazy Monday night final football score where we're catching the points here. And I think it's the right side.
To further expand on your point of the quarterback pressure, New England leads in sacks plus turnovers forced per game. And it's because they have a linebacker in Matt Judon. He has 11.5 sacks on the season. That is the third most in the NFL. And I go back, this was an easy one for me because I go back to just one game. You have to look both teams. Maybe a little bit fraudulent in some parts because yes, for both teams, the level of competition, maybe not there compared to like others. However, I have one piece of sample size, just one game sample size to go back on reference to Josh Allen, how he does under quarterback pressure. And that was in week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Josh Allen against the only other top 10 pass rush that he's played, Pitt in week 1, only 1 thrown touchdown pass, 3 sacks, and his second lowest QBR of the season, which was his worst only behind the 9-6 loss that he had to the Jags where he was sacked 4 times. I imagine a similar scenario here where we're not going to have to see Mac Jones do too much on offense again, because it is this pass rush that is getting to Josh Allen. They don't have necessarily a strong run game. They don't have that deep field wide receiver attack that you would need to get through a defense like this, like in the Patriots. The Bills have the number 1 defense. Who have you played? Miami twice, Washington football team, Houston Jets, and Saints without its top 2 running backs. I'm not convinced. And we've kind of seen them struggle. That's going to be the matchup to me, though, is Judon against Josh Allen. So this one was an easy pick for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. There, as much as I hated this week's card, Pam, there's so many that are they're just there, right? There's just these numbers that I'm looking at from whether it's a mathematical perspective or a situational. And this is just one of those situational ones. The Patriots right now are hot. Their defense has capitalized from a ton of turnovers. Josh Allen and the Bills are giving up a ton of turnovers. It seems like a no-brainer. Even if at the end of the day, this ends up being an L for us because the Pats are a square dog or whatever it may be, I'm not going to overthink this one.
Okay. So then we have a lot of dogs. Last week, I don't know if you remember at the end of last week's podcast, I said, Kelly, we have 5 dogs. Eventually, the books are going to have some favorites. And I was right.
You were
One
definitely
and
right.
four, 1 and 4 in the week. So what if we put in a little bit of one favorite? The favorites that I do like for this week, 49ers -3.5. I also like the Bengals -3 at home to the Chargers. We could consider Dolphins -4 at home to the Giants since no Daniel Jones is in the mix. Do any of those have
Yeah,
an
I
interest
think
you?
the Bengals looks to be the right side. Look, I know a lot of really sharp people that are trying to make a case for the Chargers, right? Because the Bengals have looked so great over the last few games. But I think the Bengals have looked great over the last few games because this Bengals team is really good.
You always
I'm not
say buy
understanding,
low, sell high. Is this that?
and I understand, but I don't know if I'm ready to sell on Cincinnati yet. I
Right.
think that they haven't hit their peak. And that's the question that I have here, right? I think the game is 3 for a reason, because that is what the power ratings say. So what the bookmakers are doing here is they're going to put it out and they're going to say, everybody come bet it. This is a game where situationally, the Bengals are on an absolute tear right now. Chargers, not. And this is a Justin Herbert team that I said I thought would make the playoffs. And there for a few weeks, boy, did they look good. Now they're starting to struggle. Defensive coordinators have a ton more tape on Herbert, and it is not working out well for him. The Chargers defense, as we saw last week in Mile High, not great. I think this is one of those sharp squares games where I know that the squares are going to get the money. It just feels like that. Like, I would not go out and actively bet my money on the Bengals because I'm like, this is so fishy. But to use it in the contest feels right because it's one of those games that I know that the Bengals are going to win this one. Let's call it 28-10. And I'm going to go, damn it. I knew the Bengals were the right side, but every guy that I respect love the Chargers here. I'm not buying the hype on the Chargers. I think it's a Bengals or pass situation totally.
Okay, well then let me give some points to maybe just hone in on why I like the Bengals as well. For Joe Mixon, it's Joe Mixon against the Chargers. He has 2+ touchdowns would be a prop that I would be looking to have. He has scored a touchdown in 8 straight games. That's the longest streak for the Bengals since AJ Green scored in 9 straight in 2012. More so, though, Mixon has scored multiple touchdowns in 4 straight games. That's the longest streak in franchise history. Now it's Joe Mixon against the LA Chargers defense. They have allowed a rushing touchdown in 7 straight games. That's the longest active streak in the league right now. And 41% of the yardage allowed by the Chargers has come from the run. That's the highest rate in the league. You have the worst rushing defense in the NFL against a team who has definitely found its stride on the ground game, in addition to having one of the best pass rushes, in addition to having a great defense. I mean, my one concern is that Herbert, he is vulnerable to the blitz. 60% completion compared to 5 touchdowns. When he's not blitzed, it's 19 touchdowns. Well, the Bengals are actually one of the least blitz rate teams in the NFL. So I think Herbert is going to have a better game than what we saw last week in his loss to the Broncos. Do we like a Justin Herbert who can be competitive in this matchup, or do you feel like let's maybe talk about San Francisco, let's maybe talk about Dolphins, just to kind of like see where
we
we're
can talk about the Dolphins? I hate this NFC West. I hate it. I'm gonna be honest with you. I went back, Pam. So I have a notebook and I take a bazillion friggin' notes. Like, I have an entire year. I went back on the plane as I'm flying home from Vegas, and I'm looking and I'm going, okay, Seattle Seahawks. My best bet for Barstool was Seattle not to make the playoffs. Why do I keep betting Seattle? And then here I am this week, again, trying to make a case for Seattle. I hate the game. 3.5 stinks. I
love 3.5. You're talking about how easy it is for the books to like lay 2.5 for the Raiders, who just beat the Dolphins, who just beat the Dallas, America's team. Yeah. And now you want to do 3.5. Let me take the home dog. I feel the same
I don't
way.
want to take the home dog. I didn't
no,
say that.
No. What I'm saying is I'm thinking of, if you're thinking in terms of like sports books, what they're trying to do, laying a 2.5 is enticing to take the home favorite. Laying the 3.5 is enticing to take the home dog.
I can see what you're saying.
I like the 49ers -3.5. And I think as you're talking about how good the Bengals are, that's kind of how I feel about the 49ers. I'm starting to believe, hey, you know what? The 49ers, they're a legitimate team. In the last 3 weeks, San Francisco has scored on 59% of his drives. That's the fourth best in the NFL compared to 39% prior. They have scored a touchdown on nearly a third of its red zone plays. That is the highest rate in the league. And why? Because they have a huge weapon in running back Elijah Mitchell. He ranks fourth amongst running backs in the rate of run to gain 10 or more yards. He is an explosive player. And the Seahawks, they don't have anything. They're 31st against the pass, and Jimmy G is actually doing pretty well. He is averaging 8.8 yards per pass, 5 touchdowns, 1 interceptions in his last 3 games, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in his 4 road starts this season. Jimmy G is a good quarterback. I think people are maybe overlooking it because it's like, oh, San Francisco. I don't know. They're just like not a popular. That's not the
No,
team.
I'm with you.
It's not Joe Burrow.
I just pulled up the odds screen because I wanted to see it. It actually opened 3. So what a lot of people don't realize is 3 is the right number on some of these. Like you mentioned, you thought that the Steelers Ravens game should be 3. I feel like the AFC North, the home team's always a 3-point favorite, or vice versa, right? The lines are always 3. Mm-hmm. From 3 to 3.5 is such a significant amount of money early on in the week. That is money I respect. I'm with you here. While I wish we had a 3, and I could see this game landing 3, and it would infuriate me if it did. I think you're right. This is a Niners team that's really started to pick up steam. We were just talking about the Bengals. I think that they both are in that same type of category, right? The trajectory is high versus their opponent. Seattle has been absolute trash. I actually just told my guys that I do my big fantasy league with, I love Tyler Lockett. Huge fan. Always been a fan of his entire family my whole life at K-State. I actually elected to bench him this week because he's not getting the reps that he deserves. Russell Wilson's obviously hurt, and Pete Carroll is frankly getting out coached. And I don't know what that is. So I'm okay. If you think we're taking too many dogs, I'm okay with doing the Niners and the Bengals and maybe leaving out one of the other prospective dogs.
Okay, well, just to reiterate on your note about Russell Wilson, in his return, he ranks 34th of 39 quarterbacks in success rate. He's 37th in completion rate. He is 34th in expected points added per play, which means they're just not scoring. And the San Francisco defense is 6th in passing yards allowed, 9th in yards per pass attempt, and 8th in yards per completion. I think, like the Bengals, San Francisco can be a blowout. So I like it. If we do 2 favorites, let's do 49ers.
Okay.
Bengals. Do you like one more than the other?
I actually like both line moves, also because the Bengals open as a 1.5-point favorite.
Oh, wow.
Where they're currently sitting is that's a lot of respect from the bookmakers. And that's the interesting part. Like I said, as many sharp guys as I know that are making a case for the Chargers this week, I'm not going to be one of them. So I'm okay with both of those favorites, the Steelers, the Broncos. Now we just have to decide which dog do we like better. Do we like the Patriots or Washington football team?
That's all very hard.
If you're going to make me pick which one of the 2.5-point underdogs I like better, I'm going to go with the Patriots.
Okay.
But it's a very close tie. I could make a case for either team and be very content on Sunday evening, or I guess Monday.
Well, then you know what? I think the Patriots make sense because that is more likely to be a lower scored game than what I think Washington Raiders can be. I think Washington Raiders can have like 60 points.
Would be rather high, but you're right. The more I have it, look, I have my spreadsheet and everything open. The more I have it up, the more I would like to concede on that 31-30 and go with a 21-20 final score.
Yeah, I think that could happen in the Patriots and Washington Raiders. I can see happening being like that one would be like
that
31-30.
Would be like the 31-30 type game. You're right.
Correct. So for that reason alone, because points are premium and all that language, if you're thinking it, because I do like the over in that game, that was one of my best bets for this week. Also, was taking the over on 49.5 because I was like, okay, this should be like 54 or something. Then do you want to do the Patriots?
Yeah,
that is going to be the trendy dog. Does that matter?
No, it's going to be. But listen, these are things that like you and I have spoken about throughout the entire season, right? Stop trying to fulfill these narratives or stop trying to worry about what it is. I mean, look, right. I know a lot of square guys that ended up on the Browns plus three. I had 3.5 on Sunday. Would I make that Browns bet again? Absolutely. I felt like I was on the right side for a majority of that game. Turnovers, chaos, and all. Those are the type of scenarios that would I make this bet again? And I have to stop allowing these outside voices, whether they're on TV or whether they're in my friends group, to affect where I may or may not place my bets.
Okay. Broncos 9.5. You still feel good about that one then, instead of it being a 10?
Yes.
Okay, so then let's go ahead and do that. Then those are our 5. We have Broncos plus 9.5 at the Chiefs. We have the Patriots plus 2.5 at the Bills. 49ers minus 3.5 at the Seahawks. Steelers plus 4.5 at home to the Ravens. And then we're going to do the Bengals minus 3 at home to the Chargers. That's it. Those are our 5.
Yay.
I'm glad that we did a little bit more of a balance this time instead of having all 5 dogs, because it's the NFL. Some favorites do win and
Well,
cover.
they do. Listen, there's going to be those crazy weekends where you see like 11 out of 13 dogs win, whatever it may be. But you're right. Like having a little bit more of a balanced attack kind of makes things feel a little bit better, because picking 5 dogs to win outright on games like last weekend make your Sunday not so fun.
So we'll see on Sunday when the Bengals are down by 20 points and Washington football team is up by 20. We'll say that's the dogs. It's okay. It's okay. I love our card. I like that we talked through it. We went through it all. We added some favorites instead of all dogs. I like it. I like it. Do make sure to follow Kelly on Twitter at KellyInVegas. You can follow me on Twitter at Pamela M35. Those are our 5 against the spread contest picks for week 13 of the NFL. And that does it for another episode of Stack the Stats.